I spent practically my entire life devoted to my family business. I had a bright career in tech that I gave up to save the business when it was going through a very rough patch, and my family decided to reward my hard work by choosing to make my brother the sole inheritor. This is honestly the biggest betrayal I've ever faced, and also probably the most disrespectful thing anyone has ever done to me. I decided to quit and start something of my own, and the way things turned out for my brother and family business has honestly been the greatest revenge of all time. To give you some context, my great-grandfather built a small importing company that had been passed down through generations. My father and grandfather had put their sweat and blood into building it up, and things were going pretty great, but when I was 24, a disaster fell on the family. My dad got into a terrible accident that caused significant brain damage. He was paralyzed for nearly 2 years, and it was up to me and my brother to take care of the business. My brother decided that he didn't want to have the responsibility and pretty much bailed, but I didn't have the heart to abandon something I knew my father loved with his whole heart. My grandpa passed away when I was around 9 or 10 years old, and I knew he'd be heartbroken if no one in the family took up the responsibility. Back then I had just started a tech job and it was a pretty promising position, but I made the choice to leave it and I still don't regret it. I have dedicated the best years of my life to this business, working hard to ensure that it succeeded and prospered. We're not a monumental success in any manner, but these are easily the most profits we've seen in decades. But all of my hard work went to waste when my brother, who had never contributed a single day's work to the company, inherited it. It came as quite a shock. My father passed away last month, and we discovered in his will that he had left almost the entirety of the company to my brother. I was still the CEO and would receive a great salary, but my brother was made the owner and ultimately the decisions rested on his shoulders. I didn't expect it, and to be honest, it was extremely disappointing, to say the least. I had put my heart and soul into the company, and my father's decision came as a betrayal. I asked my mother if she had any idea about this, and she said that Dad had talked to her about this before he passed away. That was another shock to me. Their reason behind this was that my brother needs to learn about taking responsibility one way or the other, and having me guide him would be good for him. My mom tried to placate me, saying that I would still be making the same amount of money. Here's the thing though. It's not about money. I think all my hard work has been disrespected by this decision, and I simply deserve better than this. I didn't want to be babysitting my brother and essentially taking the whole responsibility while he is the one who inherits it and get to be the chairman of the board. After a lot of thinking, I decided to quit the company. I didn't want to work a day with my brother, and I had quite a lot of savings to rely on for a while until I figured out my next move career-wise. I knew that with my experience and reputation, it wouldn't be particularly difficult to find a good position, so I wasn't worried about that. So I quit before my brother started work. Let me tell you about my brother now. Even as a child, he was lazy, irresponsible, and had a history of squandering his money on frivolous things. He loved splurging, but never even tried to put any effort into earning. Growing up, we were fairly well off, and he adopted that lifestyle without ever thinking of a way of paying for it. To put it bluntly, he took the money for granted. I've already mentioned how he refused to step up when my dad got sick and needed someone to take responsibility for the company. Regardless, at first, I was still hoping that he would try to fix his ways and take good decisions now that he was the sole inheritor. I tried to give him some, but he would always brush me off and say that he knew what he was doing. He was annoyed at me for quitting and told me pretty rudely that he can handle himself. It quickly became obvious that he didn't know what he was doing. He started to spend the company's money recklessly, hiring his friends for positions they weren't qualified for and throwing lavish parties to impress them. Meanwhile, our customers were becoming increasingly dissatisfied. A few months into the job, my brother decided that it was time to expand into manufacturing. That had been my dad's dream, but I had delayed it on purpose due to a lot of complications. Guess my brother thought he was qualified enough to pull it off. Spoiler alert, he was not. Less than 6 months after I left, the business came crashing down. The products were of such poor quality that they lost a ton of money without getting a single distributor. The company was hemorrhaging money, and my brother had no idea how to fix it. I knew about all this because it was common news, but then I started receiving calls and messages from some of the employees who had stayed on after I left. They were begging me to come back and help them save the company. At first, I was tempted to help out. But then, I thought about how my brother had treated me and how he had squandered everything I had worked so hard for. I realized that he needed to learn a lesson, and I decided to sit back and watch the whole thing play out. The best part was when my brother reached out to me. He told me that the business was in trouble and he needed my help to get things back on track. I asked if he would be willing to step down from his position and make me the inheritor if I choose to come back, and he said no and offered me more money instead. I refused. It was never about the money in the first place. I left because I deserve more respect. The company is now nearly bankrupt, and my brother is left with nothing. His friends had abandoned him, and he was left to pick up the pieces on his own. Most of the employees have been fired, and many others have quit. It truly is a sinking ship. I can't say that I am not tempted to gloat. After all, my brother had made my life a living hell when I was working at the company, and now he was getting his punishment. But I also know that bankruptcy would have real consequences for the employees who had worked so hard for the company. I also feel awful that a business that has been in the family for generations has come crashing down into nothing, but I don't regret quitting. Update 1. Wow, I'm overwhelmed by the response to my post. Thank you all for your support and encouragement. It's been great reading all your comments and seeing that I'm not alone in this situation. I've been taking some time to myself to figure out my next move, and I think I have a plan. I do want to start a business of my own in the future. But now I think I'll try to take up a new job leveraging my skills and experience. I'm excited to see where this journey takes me, and I'll be sure to keep you all updated on my progress. It shouldn't be that difficult, but you never really know how things might go in this economy. Send me luck. Update 2. It's been a few months since I last updated, and I'm really happy to say that I have found a new job. It's not as great as I was expecting, but I think it's more than enough for now. It's been a lot of hard work, and I'm still adjusting to working for someone else instead of taking my calls all the time, but it's also been incredibly fulfilling. As for my family business, it's a sad story. Many of you have asked about my brother and what he has been up to this whole time, and there isn't much to say. There's not much left of it now, and as far as I know, he has sold the company and is not doing well financially now. He had to sell his fancy cars and the townhouse he bought. I don't know where he's living now, and I'm also not in touch with my mom. I know my dad has left enough money for her to live comfortably her whole life, and I would help her out if he ever needed it. My problem is with my brother and not her. It's a shame what happened, but I've moved on and I'm excited about my future. Thanks again for all your support, it means a lot to me. Update 3. Hey everyone, it's been a while since I posted an update. I just wanted to share some good news. I'm working on my startup. I had my job for nearly a year and I've been able to gather the proper resources during this time. I have a small team of dedicated employees and we're working on some exciting new projects. It's been a lot of hard work, but I'm so happy with the way things have turned out. As for my family business, well, it's officially gone. It's a sad ending to a long legacy, but sometimes things just don't work out. I'm grateful for the lessons I learned along the way, and I'm looking forward to a bright future. Thank you all for your support, it's been a great journey. Now on to the next story. Story 2. My fiancée cheated with my brother, later on I catch her pregnant so I make them regret. I, am 28, was living what I thought was the perfect love story, engaged to the woman of my dreams, Selena, whom I met in college and had an immediate connection with her because of her kind and extroverted behavior. For me it was a complete fairy tale, but as we all know, not all fairy tales have happy endings, and that's exactly when I woke up from my dream to the harsh reality. Our relationship was long distance after dating in college for a few years, and us coming from different cultures made everything pretty hard for us to continue, so after 2 years of relationship, we called it quits and went on our separate ways, but destiny had other plans for us. I have a younger brother named, I'll call him John. He is a very extroverted person, always partying and doing clubs. Unlike me, he was a very spoiled kid as he is the youngest in the household, so no one really disciplined him for his actions, language, or morals. I love my brother, but we have a very off relationship. My parents always put my choices aside to fulfill his because he was younger. After becoming a German translator, I rarely met my parents and my brother, except on occasions or at parties. It wasn't like I had no affection for them, but the way they treated me made me distant. For some time, my brother used to come to my place drunk every night and I gave him the space to rest. He was one hell of an SS and he doesn't even have a job, just living on my parents' money. Due to John's extroverted behavior, Selena came into my life again. John started working as a bartender in a very famous bar because my dad eventually got tired of his SHT and he doesn't have a proper degree, so he needed to restart. John invited me to the party, which was hosted by him in the club. It was very loud and crowded. I met many college friends and there she was sitting on the chair talking to John, who was seemingly flirting with her, which made me chuckle. Seeing her after so many years made me realize that I still loved her as much as I did back then. It made me feel fresh and as if we were still together. I waved towards her nervously. She walked towards me and hugged me. We talked and filled our cups with each other's life information. It was an amazing feeling. John walked towards me and he was surprised to find that we knew each other. I left the club and we shared our contacts with each other. Something about her behavior made me realize that maybe she wanted me again, her signs, and the way she was talking to me. One good thing was we both didn't date anyone seriously after our breakup. I was not sure about starting things again, but after so many years I felt happier. The reason behind our first breakup was long distance, but now we both are working in the same cities. I was hopeful maybe it could work out. Selena and John were great friends and it was a good thing and surprising. I wanted to know when Selena and John met, but I felt awkward asking her that, so I accepted it and let the good time roll. We started seeing each other and talking for endless hours to make up for the gap. After a few months, I asked her if she wanted to join me for dinner at my parents' house, where I was going to propose to her for marriage, because now asking for a relationship felt stupid and I should be clear with what I exactly want for both of us. After dinner, I took her to my room and showed her my childhood pictures and everything. We were laughing and giggling. After a minute, I took a deep breath and gave her a diary in which I had written letters for us. She opened it, and there was a ring and a card inside, asking her if she wanted to marry me. She looked at me with teary eyes and hugged me tightly, saying yes. It was a heartwarming moment for both of us and something that was going to change both of our lives. My parents already knew her and they liked her. I asked her if her parents would have any problems because of cultural things, to which she beautifully replied that she was going to insist and that it was her life and she wanted to marry me. We decided on a proper engagement party after she got her parents' permission. She asked me to meet her parents so they both could agree to this. We were still sitting and chatting while having an ice cream. John was scrolling down on his phone, and Selena was looking over him after every conversation as if she wanted him to join us. She had a bit of ice cream on her lips as I was about to wipe it off. John looked at her and wiped it with his thumb, looking at her seductively. I am a calm man, and here I lost my calmness. Both Selena and John laughed, and it was so hard for me to see. She looked at me, apologized and said, "Don't mind us, we are just really close best friends." John interjected by saying that brother would never mind, and he knows how best friends act. I laughed and immediately asked them where they both met. The smile from their faces disappeared, and both looked at each other worriedly. I looked at them, giggling and asking whether I had asked an offensive question. Finally, Selena replied and told me that she met him in the hospital when he got into an accident back in December. It was a lie, a complete lie. John was out of the country back in December. The look on John's face eventually confirmed the lie. John tried to cover it up, but I stopped him in between and said that's okay if you guys don't want to tell me the truth, but lying was just not it. He said that they had met at a party where John felt sick after heavy drinking and Selena came to his rescue. After a week, we both went to meet Selena's mom and dad. Trust me, it wasn't an easy thing to do. Her father was very strict, but after insisting, and with the help of Selena's mother, he finally agreed. Actually, it took 3 to 4 meetings to get this done, but he is a very nice guy, and to be honest, I would do the same for my daughter. Selena and John's relationship was indeed like best friends, and after the arrival of Selena, I felt him becoming more responsible and understanding. He used to ask me for advice, and Selena did as well. Both Selena and John were of the same age, so I thought that's the reason they vibed a lot with each other. Nothing defeats the feeling when her parents finally agreed, and I never believed in destiny, but it was like magic, losing her and finding her again, and that's for life, though with an unexpected turn. She is a very humble woman, and that's why I loved her, but sometimes I did doubt her around John. Update 1. Hello all, it's been a month since my last update, as I had pretty bad anxiety and overthinking because of Selena and John's behavior, which resulted in a heated as well as an assuring argument between us a week before our engagement. Their touchy behavior and extreme closeness after knowing how John acted around her made me feel nauseated. All of this escalated the night Selena was staying at my parents' beach house as we organized a beach party, which was supposed to be fun but turned pretty bad. Selena was wearing her bikini, and she looked extremely hot. She had her friends and cousins, and they were all having fun. I went out to arrange the lights for the night party, and it took me 2 hours as I was heading towards her on the beach. What I saw almost made me throw up. Selena was giving John a lap dance. It wasn't a proper lap dance to be precise, but she was literally all over him, and he was rubbing his hands over her SS. I ran towards them angrily and shouted, "What the FCK was going on?" Everybody started looking at me, and she looked scared. John kept apologizing and said it wasn't like that, it was just a dare. I grabbed her hand and took her to our room. I punched my hand on the wall and threw each of my thoughts on her face. Selena looked terrified and disgusted. She said there was nothing between them. She told me that if she was going to be disloyal to me or attracted to my brother, she would have let me know the day I met her. She also said that I was just overanalyzing and John was her best friend, and before meeting her, they both used to have a lot of fun, and if that's bothering me, she will keep her boundaries from now on. She also claimed that I have always been an overthinker and that it's normal to feel insecure sometimes, but I should give her a chance and trust her. Did I forget about it? No. Did I think of it again and again? Yes, that glimpse of them was pretty hard to forget, and I couldn't sleep for days, but they both maintained their distance. Mom was pretty mad at John for acting like an SS and scolding him. He apologized before that, and I forgave him. Finally, the day of the engagement arrived, and everything went pretty well. We decided to celebrate our engagement in the chapel, where we took our own vows, which was fun and emotionally and romantically beautiful. She looked extremely beautiful and like a dream in front of me. We danced and had so much fun. It was the most beautiful thing ever to happen in my life, and if you told me it would have happened 4 years ago, I would have laughed. John was pretty heavy on the drink, and he danced like crazy. Selena never drinks, so I refused to do it either. After the party, we both kind of prayed and made wishes for each other. She kept kissing my face like crazy, and it was so cute. I took her to my place, and we made out with each other. It was so hard for me to control, and then I had to ask if she wanted to do it. She held my hands and told me that she wanted to wait till marriage and make it special. I laughed and agreed with her. A few days later, while coming back to my place, I decided to meet Selena after work. As I entered her lane, I saw John leaving her house. I went inside and waited for her to speak about John's arrival. But she didn't talk about him and instead served dinner, which felt tasteless because I kept thinking about that, and many questions started coming into my head. I couldn't stop but ask Selena about John. She replied very casually that yeah, John was not feeling well, so he dropped by to get some meds. I couldn't sleep the whole night after that, thinking about what might be the case behind her acting like that. After everything that was happening, I kept questioning whether my doubts were true or I was overthinking it, because she had already reassured me, and if I asked her, she would think I was spying on her. I wanted all of these thoughts to go away as they were making a negative review of Selena in my mind. She seemed suspicious to me by the way she acted. She always kept her phone upside down, and I didn't even know her password. I never saw her doing something on her phone in front of me. She always had her internet off, which was very weird. The next morning, I asked Selena if she wanted to get married next month, and it would be a destination wedding. I wanted to plan it with her, but her reply was dry and uninteresting. She asked me to wait as she wanted to get promoted in her hospital, so she couldn't avoid taking leaves for any purpose. She used to reply, text, and call me all the time, but now her replies are late and she is always irritated, so I gave her the space she needed. Update 2. Hello guys, it's been 2 months since the last update, and I don't know how to put everything in words to elaborate on my situation, but sometimes your overthinking isn't overthinking. Our story was a fairy tale and a dream of my life, which turned into a nightmare in a few moments. It took a very hard toll on my mental health, and I am seeing a psychologist. After her dry text and behavior, she refused to meet me, saying it was her workload. I used to purposefully call John and Selena to see if they were together, but they never picked up my call, which made me doubt it further. I was going mad with sleepless nights, thinking my fiancé might be F-king my brother, and I needed to find the truth. But instead of making assumptions that might not be true in reality, I decided to check up on her on the weekend and surprise her with her favorite macaron and flowers. I drove towards her place and knocked on the door, but nobody answered. After knocking 3 or 4 times, I stepped back, and suddenly I saw John's car on the side of the road. My stomach was heating up with anxiety, and I panicked. I didn't know what to do, so I called her, but she didn't pick up my call. I was going to call John, but then I decided to stop and go back inside my car. After a while, I finally saw John coming out of her house, and my overthinking came true. How can they both meet and not tell me about it? After promising me to maintain her boundaries and respect my feelings, she was meeting him behind my back. I don't know what their relationship was, but meeting someone behind is minor cheating, which leads you to a maniac state of thoughts and insecurity. You cannot eat, sleep, or focus on the work. Your body becomes numb, and you don't know how to deal with it. As soon as John left, I got a call from Selena. I asked her if I could come over, and she immediately agreed. I wiped off my tears and went inside. I gave her flowers, and she hugged me tightly and kissed my face for 2 straight minutes. I sat on the sofa and she placed her head on my lap, having one of the macaron. I looked at her innocent face and couldn't believe that she could do something like that. Selena was a very religious and high moral person. After being in each other's arms for a while, I wanted to go to the washroom. After I was done, I was washing my hands, and then I saw something that changed my life, and I almost died of a panic attack. It was a positive pregnancy test lying next to the dustbin, maybe thrown in haste, that it never made it inside. As soon as I took it in my shivering hands, it sent shockwaves to my body. The test was like a dagger in my heart. Selena was banging on the door of the bathroom. She knew, she F-king knew. I opened the door with the test in my hand and tears in my eyes, and she looked at me in disbelief, fear, and lots of other emotions. I couldn't find any words to express my betrayal coming from her. It was be expected from John, but from her? I asked her in a stammering voice, how could she do this to me? She got on her knees and started begging me, asking me to give her the chance to explain and tell the truth. I didn't have any courage, so I left immediately. I was not expecting her to ruin my life when she was the one who fixed it. Maybe the truth always lingered in front of my eyes, but I was heedless to see it. I drove my way to my parents' house, and every dot started to connect one after another. Both of them were calling me again and again. She was manipulating me all the time, and that's why she kept apologizing for no reason. She lied to me about her virginity, and she was F-king pregnant with my own brother. I reached my parents' house and told them everything. John was sitting there, and his face showed no remorse. The anger was running down my veins, and I took it as an opportunity to tell my parents how they had a hand in ruining my life as well. They were the ones who failed to raise their kid and raised an soul who had no affection or care but a proper selfish snake who didn't even hesitate to bite his own brother. Mom and Dad kept apologizing, and she kept crying and hugging me, but I didn't hug her back. It was their mistake for ignoring his actions and the effed up things he pulled from his past history. He could have been better. I called Selena's parents over to discuss the matter. When everyone gathered, I placed the pregnancy test on the table, and Selena's parents were disgusted by it. Her mother slapped her and asked her what she did wrong in raising her and how she could go against God and her religious beliefs. To be honest, I don't care about religious beliefs, but her betrayal and such low moral values made my skin crawl. I knew her, and it is hard to believe, and I swear to the Lord that I would never be able to put my trust in anyone ever again. I broke off my engagement with Selena on that day. As she was pregnant with my brother, they decided to get them married. Update 3, our family decided that John would marry Selena with shared guilt and secrets, but the most surprising part was yet to come. Everything for Selena went downhill. The only person who didn't get his karma was John, and as for Selena, she suffered terribly. John was a douchebag. He had a warning attached to him with the reputation of a charming womanizer. Commitment was an alien thing for him, and the whole pregnancy thing was suffocating him. The reason why Selena agreed to the engagement was not that she was in love with me but to get John back, and she pretended all the time with me. She confessed that herself, and now when John was asked for commitment, his interest disappeared immediately. I was staying out of this, but I knew everything from Selena's mother. She used to call me and cry to me as John was asking Selena to abort the child. Selena indeed realized that she was just another conquest for him and regretted what she did to me. Her mother didn't let her abort because of their religious beliefs. The honeymoon phase she thought she was going to get by making him jealous through me ended in a tremendous nightmare and ruined many lives, and as for John, it was basically another stupid baseless thing. He didn't care about his own child and traumatized her in between all this. I was on medications and attended many orientations for mental health, but it wasn't even close to better, so I gave my interview for an abroad job and decided to leave the country for a while. I had no one who cared for me. My parents were just doing their duty, and John never even apologized to me. What else I could expect from him? Even though the worst thing I faced, I felt bad and wished her the best for the baby because of the way she manipulated me. She got manipulated by him too. John was the biggest player with his charismatic personality, and the love and affection he showed and then suddenly stopped can make anyone go mad. Whatever happened was part of life, but he could have been a dad and a good husband and given her a good life. She finally decided to be a single mother, and my family agreed on child support and even decided to give her a house for both her and the baby. I finally cleared my interview and left the country. Yet, the pain of the past was never too far from the surface. It was as if a shadow loomed over me, a reminder of scars, and for her as well. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. She traded her beautiful future with years of regrets with my brother, and for her remorse, I couldn't help but feel a strange mix of emotions. While I was angry, I was also glad to see that she saw her mistake. But as for John, he continued doing what he did, disowned by my parents, but he didn't care at all and never showed any inclination to change. I have moved on a lot from my past, and I have also learned a lot, especially to trust my instincts and follow my guts.